All right. So Scrum Master Power Hour presents Who Has It Harder, a technical or non-technical Scrum Master? So first, a little bit about me. So you probably all met me through LinkedIn. I'm very active, and that's where I promoted this Power Hour. I am the founder of Agile Mindset Consulting. I am passionate about helping Scrum Masters advance in their career. Typically, the people that I focus on are people with 0 to 3 years experience, but I've also had people tell me I have 5 years experience and I realize I don't know anything. So I do focus on helping new Scrum Masters on their journey, whether it's individual coaching or I do group coaching. And I do go into companies and do workshops because, as you probably all have experienced, companies are on their own journey and they need assistance, sometimes from folks from the outside. So our backlog for tonight, a little bit of a welcome and an introduction, which we're kind of handling right now. I have a few exciting announcements, and then we'll get into the meat of the discussion. So I'm going to keep an eye on my time, but I want to talk to you a little bit about my story, about my Scrum Master journey, being a non-technical Scrum Master, as well as a technical Scrum Master, and what are the challenges that I see with both, and what are the opportunities that I see for both. We will go into breakout rooms. I'm hoping for about 10 minutes where you can meet and greet each other and talk about your own challenges. And then we always come back and do a large group share out to give people an opportunity to speak in front of a group and get comfortable with that. All right, so the first exciting announcement. Today is officially the first birthday of the Scrum Master Power Hour. And I actually didn't realize this. Somebody who is one of the founding members, so I don't believe he's here tonight, but he messaged me and said, do you realize that today is the first birthday? So I decided to put a meme up here. I love Bob Ross, grew up watching him, but I just wanted to let you know that this group was started a year ago. It's evolved to help many people, but the intention has always been to help new Scrum Masters on their journey. And one of the impetuses for me to start this group a year ago was because I felt like I didn't have this support when I started. And I'll get into my story in just a little bit so you can see what that's all about. Next week, we are going to have what I've been calling a fireside chat. And some of you may have experienced the ones in the past. Once a month, I invite in somebody that I have a trusting relationship with. So I know who they are, I know what they stand for. And we have just like a fishbowl chat. Then there's an opportunity towards the end for you to ask questions and, kind of pick the person's brain, so to speak, about the topic. So next week, my friend Karen Weeks, who is the Chief People Officer at a software company in Manhattan, will be coming to talk with us about how to successfully work with managers in an agile environment, helping them through the challenges of adjusting to their new role and what we can do as Scrum Masters to support them. And of course, how to not be a manager ourselves, because sometimes that's what we fall into, trying to tell people what to do and how to do it. And how do we become more of an influencer and let the managers do the managing? So this is next week. Again, this will be recorded because it's an interview with an expert and sent out afterwards. But one of the other reasons I'm super excited is because she is the person who gave me the name Trello Ninja. So you might have seen that on LinkedIn. It's in my tagline. She came up with that term. So we're going to have a little chat about how that came about and how that small passing comment that she made saying that has really opened up so many doors for me, definitely as a business owner, but also as a person. The last announcement, my Scrum Simulator, some of you may have heard of this, this may be new information for you. I bring together people to form a brand new Scrum team to help them gain experience, quote unquote, doing Scrum. So in supporting new Scrum Masters on their journey, getting them out of that box of reading books and watching videos to actually getting practice doing this. So my July cohort started yesterday, and I am working on taking interviews and filling up my August cohort, which starts in a month. So what will you do during this cohort? It's a 4-month course. You will experience the startup process of a new team. You will gain experience doing all of the 3 roles, participating and facilitating all of the 5 events, and building the 3 artifacts of the Scrum framework. You will learn how to do all the supporting agile practices, build your Scrum Master skills according to the 6 stances of a Scrum Master, and also work on building your brand, your network, and practice your interviewing skills should you need those. So I have 2 spots left for this cohort. You can put in the chat that you're interested and I'll reach out, or reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can have a talk about you if this is a good fit. All right, so with the announcements behind us, let's move on to the content. All right, so this is a question that I've been curious about for a long time. Which is harder, being a technical or a non-technical Scrum Master? So just to clarify what that means, a technical Scrum Master understands and knows how to quote unquote do the work of the team. So maybe if you're on a software development team, you have hard experience doing software development. A non-technical Scrum Master would be, I suppose, the opposite. They don't have that technical experience, so they need to lean into other skills to perform that role. So I put a poll out there on LinkedIn, and this one is from 2 months ago. You can see who has a greater challenge being a Scrum Master. Here's some data that rolled in. And I also put a very similar poll out 2 days ago. So this poll has not closed just yet. We still have 5 days left, but you can see the numbers are about the same. So people agree that technical people have it easier. Non-technical people, about 30% or so say that they have it harder, but a lot of people agree, and I'm curious because this number has gone up, that both have it pretty hard. And I will tell you from my experience in landing my first Scrum Master role, first official title, full-time Scrum Master role in 2018, I would have said a non-technical Scrum Master, hands down, has it harder. And that's because that was my frame of reference. I went through a very challenging experience to learn how to do the Scrum Master role, and then another extremely challenging experience to land that first job. So I thought, man, I have it harder than anybody else. These technical people, they got it easy. However, as I've stepped into the Agile coaching role above the team level and have worked with both types, I've realized they both have it very difficult. And a lot of times it's for different reasons. So it's important for you as a Scrum Master to understand that the person that's quote unquote opposite of you also has challenges. But when you go ahead and move into that Agile coaching role, that you're going to have to help people with different things. So I want to share a little bit about my journey. Just want to keep an eye on my time here, about my story, how I got to where I am today. And this is going to be, keeping in mind of our time, more of a high level. And as I started thinking about this over the past few days, I'm like, maybe I just need to do a webinar on this for an hour on this, because I started to think about all of the milestones. and all of the things that I can share with you to help you get through your struggles. So I put myself out there on LinkedIn as a non-technical Scrum Master. And why is that? Because most of the Scrum teams out there are software teams. Now, this is changing, and this has definitely changed within the past few years. But I don't want to give people the impression that I have that software experience. So I call myself a non-technical Scrum Master. I have served as a technical Scrum Master in some cases on non-software teams. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in a moment, but I want you to tell you, it kind of didn't matter. So we will get into that. I don't know if I can admit this person. All right, so the challenges I faced along the way. Let me start with 2018. I had what I would say is a lot of Scrum Master experience and Agile experience prior to that. But in 2018, I wanted to get my first official Scrum Master role, full-time, and at the time for a software team. And I was very challenged because I didn't have that technical experience. Luckily, in Charlotte, I had made a great deal of relationships and somebody was willing to give me a chance. So I got a Scrum Master role for a small software company here in Charlotte. And one of the main challenges was they had people all across the globe. They were doing kind of a Kanban-ish type situation. Their boards were a complete mess. The communication, because you were spanning across all time zones, trying to coordinate this work to get done was really poor. And they said to me, we need some help. We want somebody to come in and implement Scrum so we have more structure. So I came in and I implemented the Scrum framework. And I knew a lot about it because I had experience prior to that, which I'll get into in just a moment. But it was a challenge for me because I didn't know a lot. And I realized that because I went and got my CSM in 2018. I worked for them for a little under 3 years. And then I decided I wanted to go into the big time and work for a big corporation. And that's where I found the biggest challenge, the biggest roadblocks. The requirements were, we want technical people. We want people to understand software. We want people with big corporate experience. And I had none of that. And it took me a while to learn how to communicate my value in a way that the people across the screen for me could hear. So to back up a little bit, I have a science background and a teaching background. So I have a science degree in geology. Sheldon Cooper will say that's not a real science, but I will assure you, I've taken every science course under the sun, and I have a great appreciation for the empirical process, experimentation, collecting data, and iterating. And that's kind of where this all started for me. I didn't understand it at the time because I didn't know what Agile and Scrum were, but that's some of the basis of Agile and Scrum empiricism. So I went on to get my master's in education and I became a science teacher. And after a year, I found I didn't want to stand up in front of a classroom and lecture at people and say, open your textbooks and answer the questions. So I decided to research different methods of teaching. And although at the time, this is the early 2000s, Scrum really wasn't a thing, Agile really wasn't a thing, especially in education, I went out there and I decided to experiment, take myself out of the front of the classroom. And what I ended up doing was transforming my classroom into an Agile environment. And it had pieces of Scrum and pieces of Kanban and other Agile practices. I had no idea I was doing this. And it wasn't until 2018 that I realized that that's what I was doing. So I had a lot of experience from way back when that I can draw from. In 2009, I left the teaching field. As I've mentioned to some of you, I still consider myself a teacher because here I am. but I left the public school realm because I felt like I took that Agile and Scrum and Kanban to the fullest extent that I could. Nobody was interested in what I was doing. It was not a thing. And the education system is a very waterfall environment. So I left, and my husband at the time and I started a business. We knew nothing about business. It was a huge struggle. We took out a lot of loans in order to open this business. And we almost, I mean, I don't know what would have happened if we didn't hire a coach, but I shudder to think. But after 2 years being in the red, we hired a business coach and a business consultant, and they helped us turn it around. And that's where my passion for coaching started. I realized that these people help you on your journey, which never ends, by the way. So we always kept working with them to keep you on track in achieving your goals, because the goals get bigger, they get more challenging, and you need that accountability. And a business that was in the red for 2 years, all of a sudden within 2 months turned around. We were able to hire employees. And then all of a sudden, not only was I a business manager, I was HR, I was payroll, I was chief marketing officer, I was all of these things as the business grew. And what I did was I took that, and that helped me understand business, which is critical when you are trying to help a company pivot to Agile. So I said former husband, not to get in the details, but we went our separate ways in 2014, and I had to start my life over, everything from the bottom, from scratch. At the time, I was teaching yoga, and I also had a small jewelry business. I was selling jewelry on Facebook. This was, before Etsy, before everybody was an entrepreneur. And I decided I wanted to be an online entrepreneur. I had no idea how to do it. And I decided I needed to teach myself how to do this. And that's where I taught myself WordPress, how to build a website. And I taught myself how to do social media marketing and all of these different things, all of these different pieces of the puzzle. And in 2018, when I decided I wanted to become a Scrum Master full-time, move out of Agile project management, I had to sell all of these prior skills to this company in order for them to hire me. And I had to tap into my sales and marketing and essentially pitch myself. So I worked for them for, like I said, a little under 3 years, got a lot of experience, but it was overwhelming at first because I was walking into this very chaotic environment. They were expecting me to basically fix all of their problems that they were having, but I was sitting in rooms where I didn't understand what anybody was talking about. Their language, their technical language was overwhelming to me. I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to help these folks. So what I started doing was meeting with people one-on-one and getting to know them and talking to them. And then I started leaning into my knowledge of human behavior and human development and relationship building and all of these soft skills that were critical for my Scrum Master journey. So as I was mentioning to somebody earlier today, one of my clients, I couldn't talk to these folks about how to do their work and help them write their lines of code. I had to help them with what I was an expert in, and that was human behavior, getting people to work together, conflict resolution, all of these things that I learned, if I really reach back to running a middle school classroom many years prior. So I slowly found success in helping these folks get their act together. I felt like I went to as far as I could in that company, and I decided I wanted to go to the big time, a giant corporation. And that's where I ran into a lot of problems, like I mentioned. But the reason I was hired for the next team that I was is because of my marketing experience. They didn't want a software person. So I was exactly what they were looking for. I joined a marketing transformation at a big bank here in Charlotte. And I will tell you that even though I had technical experience, it didn't matter because I still had no idea what they were talking about. The marketing process in a big giant corporation is so complex and broken down into so many pieces and so inefficient. And it's just so different that it didn't matter that I had technical experience. So again, I had to lean into everything else in order to help these folks. And I was able to successfully do it. So I started to leap into agile coaching at this company because guess what? Agile coaches left. They needed people to do this. So Patty, raises her hand because she wants to take the next step in her journey. And this is when I started coaching both technical and non-technical Scrum Masters. And this gave me a completely different perspective because I realized that technical people struggle just as much as non-technical people. Yes, there are benefits. And some of you that are technical may understand what those are. You might get your foot in the door much easier because companies are looking for people that have software experience. They want you to understand what the software developers are talking about because they feel like that is critical and crucial to helping them. I'm living proof that it's not, but there's a lot of perception out there that it is. The other thing is companies may want you to do software development work as well as being a Scrum Master. They may want you to be a project manager as well as being a Scrum Master. So with that in mind, they may require that technical knowledge in their job description, which means as a non-technical Scrum Master, you really have to sell your non-technical skills to overcome that challenge. When you get in there, you can easily incorporate yourself to the company and to the team in a way that a non-technical person couldn't. However, the challenges of being technical that I've seen is that these folks get into the weeds with the team. It's almost like they can't help themselves. They want to tell the team how to solve their problems. They want to tell the team how to develop the features. Sometimes they may help them write the user stories. They may help them with their estimation because that's so natural for them to want to do. And because it's almost like riding a bicycle and they jump in and help, they may not realize that that's actually hindering the team and that's no longer their role. So they really struggle with taking a step back and coaching the team because they feel as if I'm not helping them do those things anymore, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know how to not tell people what to do. And that's where an agile coach will help them through that challenge and teach them how to ask powerful questions, teach them how to read human behavior, and all of these other things that may come much more naturally to non-technical Scrum Masters. But if an agile coach is not there to help you through that hurdle, you may just get trapped in that wanting to help the team and reaching into the team and getting into the weeds too much, and you just can't get out of it. So with all of that being said, I'm just keeping it on my time. It's 6:02. I want to give you an opportunity to go into the breakout rooms, share your name and where you're from, whether you're technical or non-technical, and start to discuss your strengths as a non-technical Scrum Master, if that's you, and where are your opportunities for growth? Because You may not understand software development. You may not have participated in it, but that doesn't give you an excuse to not make strides in that area. Yes, I was a non-technical Scrum Master for a software team, but I went out there and I took Coursera courses and I made sure that I did as much as I could to help myself understand where they're coming from. On the flip side, if you are a technical Scrum Master, what are the challenges that you face? Where are your opportunities for growth? Where do you see yourself struggling? And of course, discuss your strengths. And the idea is I want you to have these conversations so you can understand the other perspective, so you have empathy for the people you work with. And if you decide to go into an agile coaching role, you can understand what the different types of Scrum Masters struggle with, because you will have to speak to them in a different way, and you will have to coach them on different things in a different way. So with that being said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Let's see if we can check in if you're all still there. Sometimes you feel like you're just talking to a computer. I'm going to assign the breakout rooms. I usually do 3 or 4 people, and I'm going to create them and put you in there for, let's say, 10 minutes, and then let you go. Does anybody have anything before we do that? Okay, I'm going to open all rooms and I'll see you in 10. All right, well, welcome back. We have about 14 minutes. So I thought I'd give everybody an opportunity to share with the large group, like, what did your group talk about? What did you reflect on? What did you take away from anything that was said this evening? So who wants to start?
I will go. I didn't really get to kind of participate, but I would say that I'm probably a hybrid of non-technical and technical. And the only reason why I say that is because I have been taking the time to learn Python and different applications and things like that, so that I can have that understanding from a developer side. But also non-technical in the sense that I like to coach. I like to come in and help people, ask them, how can I best help you? Learning, and I think as one of the ladies in our group, I think her name is Amanda, was saying is that, sitting down with the one-on-ones with her, with the developers or the team, and asking them, questions, personal questions, to get to know them, to connect and to build that rapport. So I think I will probably say that is my non-technical, is to build rapports and to find how I can best help and coach, and then also learning and taking the time to either get the free versions of these different applications and learning how to maneuver and operate those.
Yeah, the one-on-ones, as I mentioned, were huge for me, because you get to know people. They see that you care, that you're there to help them personally, but then you can ask them questions about what they do. Explain this to me. Explain, whatever it might be. And the more you have the courage to ask developers questions, the more you will also learn, and then you just kind of turn around and repeat that information somewhere else. So it's definitely helpful. I think it's just
absolutely
pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to say, I don't understand this. Will you take the time to explain it to me?
Yes, being open to learning is the biggest thing, is being receptive and to learning something new.
Yeah, and that's really challenging, especially when you start with a new company or a new team. it's so overwhelming. You have no idea what's going on, and you don't want to ask too many questions because you don't want to make it seem like you don't know anything and like have them question why they hired you. But that's the only way you learn. Ask questions. And in reality, again, me being on the other side of the fence, I don't know. Managers, they don't expect you to know everything for the first 3 months. They know it takes 3 months to get up to speed on all the acronyms minimum. So
Yes.
yeah, great. Thank you for sharing, Maya. Good to see you.
Yes, welcome back.
Thank you. All right, who else would like to share something?
I guess I can add something. Maya definitely described it perfectly, like how I focus on one-on-ones, but also one thing that I do during my one-on-ones is I ask them what are 3 things that they think I should know to help me better understand the product or the work that they do, and then they kind of get excited about sharing their knowledge with me. You know what I'm saying? Like they get to be the teacher in that moment, and they get to I guess feel the power of knowing something that I don't.
That's awesome, Amanda. And like that's you reaching into your teaching background and your expertise, right? Because you know how to deal with humans, and that's what this role requires. I love it. All right, Tony, I see you got your hand up.
There we go. So in our group, we had 3 folks who all were non-technical Scrum Masters. And it was interesting because the experience of most folks was that it was the technical knowledge or the perception of being a technical PM was the barrier to entry. They were applying for roles, trying to get into a Scrum Master position. And whether it was the first stage interview, whatever the interview process was, it was the lack of technical knowledge that was keeping them out. And my observation about that was that in my experience thus far, when I hear questions like that are technically based for something like a Scrum Master, it tells me that they are most likely doing Scrum wrong. Because I have yet to see Scrum done well. I have only ever seen Scrum done wrong, primarily based on, not defining the rules, basically lack of discipline. Mm-hmm. And then I shared a story about my military background, which discipline applies to. Basically lack of discipline. And the problem is if they're already, or any organization is already doing it wrong, and they're trying to hire a Scrum Master to fix that problem, they don't know what to look for. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they don't know. And having recently gone through this process, I found it interesting because the right fit for me was based on being able to bring in, and we mentioned teaching experience versus other things like that, but being able to take in those adjacent career experiences, those whether it was teaching or facilitating, but basically that coaching, mentoring sort of mindset around the discipline and the knowledge and the frameworks around Scrum, and being able to see a path to be able to observe, assess, and then apply the appropriate skill or technique in the situation to be able to drive a measurable result. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great, yes, Amanda. Oh, that was a direct message to me. But yes, Amanda. No, I love what you said about, if they're looking for somebody with technical skills, you have to question, what are they going to expect you to do? Are they going to expect you to do business analyst work or product owner work, development work, project management work along with that, then do they really want a Scrum Master?
I don't think a lot of these companies even know what a Scrum Master really does. They want
That's it.
they want a project manager who can do something that looks like Scrum so they can say that it's Scrum.
Yes, yes.
That's what the job board's all filled up with, project management's not actual Scrum. And when reading the description, it's like they are looking for a manager, not somebody who's actually going to coach or do anything to actually help improve the quality.
Yeah. And that was, like I said, it was my challenge in trying to take that big step. Because not only was I being told I don't have technical experience, they were also telling me you don't have big corporate experience. And I had to figure out, how do I show them that I'm a worthy candidate? And that's when I started posting on LinkedIn. And I did it because I was so frustrated that nobody would, quote unquote, give me a chance. I'm like, I am going to do this as an experiment. I was not a social media person at all. I'd been off for like 2 years. I said, I got to start building my LinkedIn network. I got to start posting content every single day, so people see that I do know something and I do know how to do this job. And it's messy at first, right? But it got me attention. People started reaching out to me and saying, oh, you know something, can I ask you some questions? And then recruiters started reaching out to me. And then a friend is like, hey, somebody I hadn't talked to in 10 years said, hey, I see you posted on LinkedIn. Want to have a quick chat? I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And he's like, let me introduce you to this account manager at this recruiting firm here in Charlotte. And it was like, bam, bam, bam. It happened so quickly after that. But it was because I put myself out there as an expert. So people started to take notice and take me, quote unquote, seriously. But it was a learning journey for me because I had to own my experience that I was not willing to own before, which is all this stuff that I did, that I told myself didn't count because it wasn't software development. But that's the stuff that the Scrum Master needs. Tony, I see you have your hand up. And I think
muted.
you're muted.
Sorry, I thought I hit that. I initially put it up because I was going to come to the defense of other project managers, but the little potpourri answer. So your journey, your description of having to market yourself and get involved in social media and stuff, so interesting because I'm not sure. I can't tell everybody's gray hair / lack of hair, as the case is with me. But if we're a little bit more senior in our work experience, then perhaps we come from a background where it's like, what do you mean I have to do all that? I just want to apply for a job and get a job. Like, what are you talking about? So that's an extremely frustrating experience, depending on your context and in your experience. But I would make this argument or this sort of observation around Agile as an umbrella. I think we're all project managers of one type. I think some people get too hung up on the project manager label because that's waterfall, or that's what they think it is. And that if you're Agile, you're a Scrum Master or something like that. And I think it's all the same family, or like all the same wheel with different spokes. And at the end of the day, or rainbow, if you want to call that, you need to, I like the rainbow thing because of the spectrum. So you need to be able to be comfortable, to be at least have awareness of the different colors in the rainbow. You might be really good at red or blue or green or whatever your color is, or flavor if it's Skittles. I love Skittles. But either way, whatever your flavor is, you got to be good at that. But if you are aware of those other things, then when you have that person who's asking for technical stuff and they're asking for that Gantt chart and you're like, what? I thought we were doing Agile. Why do you want a Gantt chart? What are you talking about? or if they're siloing you and you're like, no, we have to do this, transparency, communication, hello. Or they want, like what's behind Andrew there on the board, as opposed to I'm losing my track here, or something like a
Spreadsheet.
Gantt chart. But anyways, I'll be quiet.
Yeah, it's tough, because as I was saying to somebody earlier today, you will go from company to company to company, and they do it differently, and they have different understanding, different role clarity, and you got to be flexible in some way. You got to meet people and teams and companies where they are, but you also got to stand in who you are as a Scrum Master, because your job is to help people evolve towards Scrum. And that's the challenge, because they may say they want to and they don't, but they also may not understand what that actually means. So that's where, the education and influence piece comes in. And it's almost like you need these soft skills more than you need the technical skills. So I know some folks are, it's all about the people. That's what the Scrum Master role is, helping people work together. And that's very different than a project manager. And people are not used to that. They're not used to it. So you have to help them understand. People are throwing their LinkedIn URLs in the chat. So please connect with each other and keep talking with each other, keep showing up. Next week, like I said, we're going to have a special guest fireside chat. You'll have lots of opportunities to ask her questions. And I told her that, I have all these scenarios that I've been in with managers, challenging scenarios. Can you give us your perspective from the manager's perspective, how they see that? And of course, I'll give my perspective as well. So we can both help you understand how to work with those types of roles in an agile / Scrum environment. So please come with your questions. Whatever you're struggling with at work, she's here to help you. That will be next week, same time, same place. Anything else? Amanda, you had something for us, but anybody else have anything?
I started an Agile book club on LinkedIn, and I dropped the link in the chat. This Thursday, we're talking about the Agile Manifesto, and one of the co-authors of the manifesto, Ari Van Dennekom, I think I said his name wrong, I don't know, but Ari is going to be joining us on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, so whatever your time zone alignment is, I would love to see some people there from this group.
Excellent, thank you. All right, anything else for us?